we celebrate 20 years of the association of the former members of the European Parliament. I want to thank all who have made their contribution in our association. The former presidents, the members of the board and all members of our association. And let us not only look back, let us look to the future, and we should be self-confident to defend our European ideals and to build a strong and a free Europe.
Il Parlamento europeo è la nostra casa comune, è l'istituzione che più di ogni altra ha un legame diretto con i cittadini, che ha il dovere di rappresentarli, ascoltarli, difenderli. Quando abbiamo assunto il nostro mandato ci siamo impegnati ad onorare queste promesse, a rispondere in modo forte alle esigenze e alle preoccupazioni degli europei, in un periodo di sfide epocali che hanno alimentato un diffuso senso di smarrimento. Lavorare per l'Europa è un processo continuo che non si esaurisce con la scadenza del nostro mandato. Per questo oggi voglio ringraziarvi per il vostro impegno continuo, la vostra passione, la vostra dedizione, che non si sono fermati con la fine di una legislatura. La difesa dei nostri valori fondanti deve essere perseguita ogni giorno. Vi ringrazio perché la vostra attività contribuisce a rafforzare quel senso di comunità, quell'impegno costante di cui abbiamo bisogno per rendere le nostre democrazie più forti, più solide e pronte a rispondere alle richieste dei nostri cittadini.
As former members of the European Parliament, our hearts and minds are still with the European Parliament and its members. And it's our common duty to defend our European values and not only to look back, but to look to the future and to work for the unity and freedom and peace of our continent.
Well, here we are, the FMA is 20 years old. It was set up after the 1999 election when a number of people who were leaving said, look, we wanted to stay in touch with each other from our different countries. Henry Plum as the rapporteur and first president of the FMA, and me as the quester responsible.
Hello, thank you for inviting me to join you in the celebration of 20 years since the start of the ex-members of the European Parliament. I'm delighted to be here and to be the first chairman of a great organisation that's grown over a period of years.
Pendant ces 20 ans, l'association a permis de maintenir les liens entre les anciens députés, d'utiliser son savoir-faire pour discuter dans les universités de l'Union et de ses alentours, de faire chaque année une mission bien organisée et d'utiliser les moyens du Parlement.
The directly elected European Parliament is a young institution, and so, not surprisingly, our former Members Association, at 20 years old, itself is a comparatively young organisation. Our membership and our role have expanded over time. Staying in touch with former colleagues and getting to know others and appreciate them, often even more than when we served together in different political groups or on different committees, has been one of the most positive features for me of my FMA membership.
Thanks to the Former Members Association, we can go on working in this noble cause of the European Union, in the schools, in the EPIC2 campus, in the institutes, everywhere. Happy birthday, and let's move forward.
The FMA connects former members of the European Parliament with current members, policymakers, EU citizens and academics, promoting active citizenship through education, political dialogue and democracy building. Through the EP to Campus programme, former members have devoted their time and experience pro bono sharing their insights into how the European Union, and in particular the European Parliament, really work, with open debates on key issues and future challenges such as artificial intelligence, climate change and the economy. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, the FMA has continued to contribute to academic activities, with participation from university students all around the world. To connect with policymakers, academics and EU citizens, former members of the European Parliament participate in high-level debates organised with the European Parliamentary Research Service and by the European University Institute in Florence. Academic discussions prepared by the Robert Schuman Centre for Advanced Studies, and jointly organised debates on developments in the European Union and citizens' participation. Former members also introduce secondary school students to important topics related to the history of European integration and to current developments within the EU institutions. This programme, run by the Historical Archives of the European Union, creates social spaces for discussion and learning about Europe, democracy and citizenship. Over the past 20 years, the FMA has been fostering political dialogue with representatives of parliaments, governments, NGOs and academic institutes in the EU's neighbouring countries in support of democracy, good governance and regional cooperation. Former members have promoted dialogue with European political foundations and with parliamentarians and civil society in the EU member states, stimulating wider public debate and generating open and plural discussion on European policies and the challenges at stake.
What is our expectation to the conference on the future of Europe? That means it should become a contest of ideas on the future of Europe, visible to all European citizens.
The FMA encourages contacts between similar organisations in Europe and all over the world, promoting knowledge about the European Union and debate on its development in the political field. In doing so, it enhances transatlantic relationships and dialogue on fundamental topics such as democracy and human rights, health, the climate and digitalisation. The FMA brings former members together, providing them with a forum for meetings, discussions and cultural, scientific and social events, and fostering relations between former and current members of the European Parliament.
The EU is in a unique position because it is still the biggest internal market in the world. With its unique supranational democracy, it has to look for active partnerships.
Donc, le budget c'est essentiel et le Parlement européen, malheureusement, vote les dépenses, ne vote pas les recettes. Le Parlement européen doit se battre pour obtenir qu'il y ait des ressources propres.
Each year, the FMA pays tribute to deceased former members for their service to the European Parliament through a moving memorial service that touches the hearts of their families, colleagues and the public alike.
And the memory of how they contributed to what is the European Union today.
Former members fully engage with society and make an important contribution to reconnecting constituencies with elected representatives. I want to thank all the association's members and the members of the board for their strong commitment over the years to the growth of the association and for making it what it is today. There is life after Parliament. Sincere thanks go to the former and current staff members and trainees who have contributed to the association's work and success over the past years.
20th anniversary of FMA. Experience for the future.
Let's start. Dear Vice President Roberta Metsola, you are present here in the House of European History. Welcome that you are here in person and not only in a conference. So most welcome that you took the time to come to us. Dear members of the association, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. This video, made on the occasion of the celebration of the 20 years of our association, has the ambition to remember all the former European parliamentarians, some of whom have already passed away, who have committed themselves to making the association grow over the years and make it become what it is today. Each and every one of our colleagues has contributed to the great success of the FMA's programs and activities during these 20 exciting and challenging years. Let me express my special thanks to the former presidents of the association who have gone before me. Lord Henry Plumb, the first president of the former members association, and then his successors, José María Robles Delgado, Pat Cox, and Enrique Baron Crespo. We decided to host this event from a symbolic place, the House of European History, of which I have the honor to chair the board. Sitting in front of the founding fathers, and the mothers came later, of the European Union is no coincidence. We continue to be inspired from them to bring about the process of European integration. The principles always remain valid and must inspire us to find new ways and new solutions to continue to keep the European Union prosperous and especially united. Education is a milestone of this process, and I am proud of the cooperation between the House of European History and the Association of Former European Parliamentarians. This afternoon, we celebrated the 15th anniversary of our EP to Campus program with a successful event. A wide-ranging program of work has enabled us to contribute to the education of young European citizens and to raise awareness on the work of the European Parliament and the European Union as a whole. Over the past years, the association has also informed the public about topical issues for the EU and its member states, such as migration, artificial intelligence, social cohesion, or climate change. Our quarterly bulletin has helped to deepen these issues and better understand the questions at stake. We strongly advocated to enhance European values, such as the respect of rule of law, dignity and gender equality, and to support cultural diversity in the European Union and in Europe as a whole. Our conferences and visits to the national parliaments in the European Union member states and neighboring countries were significant to discuss issues that require an in-depth and constant dialogue. With our work, we continue to strengthen the links not only between current and former MEPs, but also with parliamentarians from other European countries and internationally to support parliamentary democracy and ensure a political dialogue based on common understanding and trust. We will continue our efforts to enlarge the platform of former parliamentarians worldwide. Last but not least, we have been following the debate on the future of Europe very closely, and we will submit our contribution as former parliamentarians to the conference on the future of Europe. And just today, the reflection group of 9 people, former members of the European Parliament, we decided a paper which is a contribution for the conference on the future of Europe. And tomorrow we will bring this paper to discussion in the board of the FMA. This is a unique opportunity to reaffirm the need to build a union that works on solid foundations. Tomorrow, our last round of the Together for the Future of Europe series of events will take place, and we will focus on the green transition strategy. The European University Institute and the main European political foundations have contributed to this initiative with their academic expertise, and we are very thankful for that. That said, the work will not stop with the end of the conference. On the contrary, it's only the starting point, and we will continue in the next month and years. Dear Vice President Roberta Metsola, there are still many projects to be accomplished. As in the past month, the pandemic will not stop us. We will continue our activities and programs with innovation and determination. and with renewed energy. Also, thanks to all the members who left the Parliament in 2019 and who have joined the association, more than 200. I also want to sincerely thank the staff for their intense and dedicated work. Elisabetta, Lisette, Valle, and our trainees Beatrice and Magali. On behalf of the Management Committee and all our members, I want to express my deep gratitude to the European Parliament for having supported the association over the past 20 years and for its trust. So thank you so much, all who have made your contribution. And I now would like to introduce our guest of honor, the first Vice President of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola. After her speech, there will be a question and answer session. And I understand, Vice President Madame Metsola, dear Roberta, you can stay around 8 o'clock. So we know the frame of the time which is available. Some parts of your biography: education, qualifications and diplomas. 2003 to 2004, University Law College of Europe. Professional career, 2004 to 2012, Counselor, Public Service in the Government. 2012 to 2013, Legal Advisor to the EU institutions. 2013 to 2021, Member of the European Parliament. And we see what will come in the European Parliament in the months to come. 2000-2002, Vice Chair of European Democrat Students. And I think we must have met there for the first time when you were Vice Chair of the European Democrat Students. And 2002 to 2003, Secretary General of European Democrat Students. And it's great that you have this background, and it's a pleasure for me, Roberta Metsola, and an honor to invite you now to speak to the former members of the European Parliament. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, President. What an honor, first of all, for me to be able to address you and this prestigious event on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of the Former Members Association. This association's contributions have been important to the work of the European Parliament, also as we've seen in many ways, but I wanted to highlight two in particular. First of all, the experience and expertise of former members serves to strengthen the European Parliament, ensuring that our institution, the institution that represents the voice of the people, has a stronger, more credible and more coherent position, not only in interinstitutional negotiations, but also on the European and global stages, as well as in the public opinion. The Former Members Association also serves as another strong pillar for the European Parliament. In a time where the green and digital transitions are more tangible than ever, at a time where the COVID pandemic has threatened to bring entire industries and economic sectors to their knees, at a time where dictators are using human beings as pawns in a hybrid attacks on our borders, Europe is decisively at a crossroads. European Union and European leadership are therefore needed much more than ever before. This Former Members Association is a crucial partner in this context. Your institutional memory, your first-hand experience of historical setbacks and triumphs, your hard-fought battles to strengthen this European Parliament provide a wealth of inspiration, energy, and motivation to us, current members of the Parliament, to work towards a stronger, more united Europe. But we won't be able to raise Europe to the levels promised without forging something stronger than what we have, something that motivates a younger and ever more skeptical audience to believe in Europe. I got involved in politics, as you just said, President, because I believed my generation's place was in Europe. And too many people tried to take that away from us. We knew that in the world we were inheriting, the only answer was Europe. So now, as one of the first, I would call myself, of the Erasmus generation, and the last of the Wałęsa and Havel generation, I want to help people recapture that sense of belief. In my view, the Conference on the Future of Europe offers the perfect example of how we can do things better, and the unique opportunity to re-energize the European project and motivate, so to speak, the next generation of European flag bearers. Many of you would have worked within the auspices of the European Convention, established after the European Council meeting held not far from here in Laeken. It was chaired by former French President Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, who we remembered in Strasbourg just last week for his lasting contribution to our European project. But in other respects, I sometimes see the same struggle to engage citizens meaningfully in the process of developing our union. I see quibbling over labels and slogans that probably filters down as a product of the institution's modus operandi rather than a proper, true, tangible, bottom-up approach and culture taking root. This is where you come in. Former members who have maintained a direct link with constituencies and civil society are uniquely posed to bring the process closer to individual citizens by providing an alternative channel to receive their input. I look to this association's reflection group on the future of Europe and its contribution to our discussions as a guide within the conference of which I am a member. Former members retain important political, academic, and intellectual responsibilities on the current and future state of our union. So please continue to weigh in and to reach out to us. I am confident that through combining your knowledge with fresh perspectives, and there are many, and innovative solutions stemming from the conference today, we will be able to better prepare our European project for the next generation. Be that by guaranteeing the digital revolution that Europe needs to compete in tomorrow's world, ensuring that no European region is left behind, guaranteeing food security, yes, food security for our continent, or establishing ourselves as leaders in climate politics. What I see is that our citizens expect us politicians in Europe to grasp the larger picture when national agendas and visions shrink to match national election timeframes. Our citizens expect Europe to step in to address the overarching issues that do not recognize geographic borders. The credibility of the European Parliament skyrocketed in the aftermath of that achievement. And I think I speak for all my colleagues when I say that members of the European Parliament aspire to be part of a house that continues to be worthy of the achievement that we took when we started to fight climate change and place it at the top of the Parliament's agenda as something that is very true to our history. So now, if I look a little bit forward for a few points, the Fit for 55 package is one of Parliament's biggest legislative responsibilities over the next 2.5 years, fighting climate change, adapting our societies, economies, and communities to new realities, and taking steps to secure our future that need to be based on that same forward-looking approach, an approach that, with history as its backbone, to construct a future where Europe is able to provide proper European solutions to European problems. Thanks a lot, President. Over back to you.
Thank you so much, Vice President, for your impressive speech and especially for the encouragement you give to the Former Members Association. This will be a motivation for the continuation of our work. Once again, thank you so much. And I thank you so much that you are ready to answer questions now. And with the help of Elisabetta Funk and of Lisette Bravo, we will now have the chance that former members can ask questions. And please, I have already one person asking for the for the floor. It's Maria Rodriguez, that's correct? President Maria Rodriguez. Please, President Rodriguez.
Many thanks, President Pöttering. Really a pleasure to join all of you in this special moment, the FMA 20th anniversary. And many thanks also, Vice President Metsola, for your keynote speech. Very interesting. So let me come with my remark and my question for you. I'm representing one of the European political foundations, and we were very pleased to work with the other European political foundations to create a plural debate on the future of Europe, counting exactly on our partnership with the former member associations. So good example, how can we promote pluralism in inventing the future of Europe? So my point is the following. We believe that we are going to a new phase of the European project because we need to invent this new development model, green digital, with social cohesion, because we need to have Europe stronger in the world for international cooperation, but we feel that we still need to build the necessary means. The financial means, we got a qualitative leap with this budgetary capacity, but most of all the political means. And I believe that we need to have a kind of a big democratic push involving much more citizens. So my question for you is, the European Parliament is a central institution. How do you think that European Parliament can organize, promote this big democratic push?
Thank you so much, President Maria Rodriguez, for your question and your comment. And I would propose that we always take 3 speakers and that we invite then Vice President Roberta Metsola to give the answer. Is that okay? Okay, so we have still to ask 2 other colleagues. Now it's Monica Baldi is the next. Monica, you are in Firenze, I think, so greetings to Firenze. You have the floor.
Many thanks, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to thank for the support of, to our association, which I hope will continue stronger and stronger in the future. As Vice President Metsola said, our activity is very important and abundant. And as you saw from the video, we go through highlight action through education, political dialogue, and democracy building. In evidence, as you said, Mr. President, EP2 campus, but even we organize debates with research service of the European Parliament, European University Institute in Florence, historical archives of the European Union. So we think the dialogue is very important. That's why our slogan this year for the 20th anniversary is experience for the future. It means even how to go on with some action through the citizen too. So we think it's very important what we are doing all over the world, but especially in Europe. And as you said, Vice President, it's very important to go on with this action. So I'd like to ask you, what do you think maybe we can improve? Because even if we have a strong political dialogue with representatives of parliaments around the world, governments, NGO, academic institutions, with the European Political Foundation, as the President said before, and with parliamentarians and civil society, what do you think maybe we can improve? For us, it's very important because we think even through the cultural activities, for instance, in this year, very difficult, we started with the presentation of some book with Librorum. We present even, we edited a book, even a new book called Overcoming the Pandemic. That is very important. I think you have it. And because we work with the G20 and Women 20 in Italy. So for us, it's very important even to communicate in the right way. So I ask you, what do you think we can improve? Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Monica. And now the third colleague is Michael. Please, Michael, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. As
one of those former members who was present at the inaugural meeting of the association, I've been delighted to be able to participate in its activities over the 20 years, at least until things got restricted by COVID and my own personal mobility problems, which have prevented me from doing what I would like to do in some respects. I wanted to express the wish that although I guess we're all looking forward to be able to meet physically together face to face more in the future, that we don't abandon Zoom meetings altogether, because it would enable those who are unable to travel easily because of mobility issues or any other health problem to still be involved to some extent. I think the association has made a tremendous impact across Europe, and I hope that will continue very much indeed. I also hope that since, of course, those of us who are British no longer have our own European MPs, sad to say, it's an issue I deeply regret, our leaving, but I hope that we can still draw on the resources of the European Parliament and of individual members to ensure that those of us in Britain who are still committed to European integration can be kept in the picture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael Elliott, and our sympathy is with our former colleagues, or now even colleagues in the former Members Association from Britain, who are member of our association. And now I invite the Vice President Metsola to give her response, please.
Thank you, President. Joining you on that last statement, I echo, let's say, the regret. I come from Malta, and this is a country that has worked very closely with the United Kingdom as member of the European Union when my country joined in 2004. And that was a very, let's say, steep learning experience for us, also based on our traditional way of doing politics, but also knowing that the debates were, let's say, always well argued, positions were well defended, and the institutions were well presented. And I must say that sometimes I share that feeling that you have just said, President, and what Michael has said. And in that regard, yes, I would very much echo his position that online meetings should continue to take place in order to have as best connections as we have with the challenging times. I think if I look at the video that we saw at the beginning, having so nice memories of such former meetings where so many people were together to exchange views and agree on common values and work for this European project is something that I think we all also look forward and thank this organization and this association for. With Ms. Baldi, what can we improve? I think that the message is there, the values are there, we just need to communicate them better. And I think to do that, I think the European Parliament needs to be more visible, needs to be more vocal, needs to be more present in the capitals of member states, needs to have in mind 2024 as the election of a parliament that as time goes by, it becomes, if I may say, more and more fragmented when compared to your experiences in this parliament. Majorities are sometimes a challenge to achieve, but that also means that you need MEPs and actors who are bridge builders. And if you are a bridge builder, that means that you can enter a room of somebody from a different political group, discuss issues that are fundamental. I give you examples. I mentioned the climate package, but we can discuss rule of law issues, for example, migration matters that have, brought together this coalition, so to speak, in the parliament that focused on how to make sure that that constructive pro-European center is promoted and seen, not only from within, not also only from outside in our member state capitals, but when we relate to the European Commission and to the Council and to the European Council. This is a discussion that we are having now. Back to you, Ms. Baldi. How can we improve? I look at the pandemic as something that has given us, let's say, technological opportunities to do our work, more adventurous opportunities to work differently to how we used to do before. At the moment in the European Parliament, there is a lot of discussion as to what kind of opportunities could we take with what we learned and discovered going forward with a modern parliamentarism, so to speak. And there is an ever-growing consensus, let's say, within the Parliament to do that. It's a very exciting time and it's a very, let's say, representative time. And I say representative because the messages that we have inherited from you. So I grew up, you know, as I said, in the European project. I have colleagues of mine today, MEPs, who are with me in the Youth Convention or in the original convention, discussing sometimes the same subjects that we did 20 years ago. But that also means that the project is very much alive and there is a lot of passion for it. So if we can bring that together and embrace the opportunities that we have through the crisis, also understanding that where we needed to take decisions quickly, we took them. We did not use, let's say, we did not use political or legal challenges as a reason not to take those decisions, but we overcame those political and legal challenges. And I mentioned, for example, the unprecedented speed with which the Recovery and Resilience Facility was adopted, a specific package which includes the Parliament's own resources, SEC and the European Union's own resources, pardon me, but also how quickly we adopted the COVID certificate, the digital certificate, something that could have taken years in another era, in another time. But there was a recognition that Europe needed to act united, that no one country, village or town was left behind. And it is with that renewed sense of purpose that I think we can work as current sitting members with you, with your expertise, with your experience of building those bridges, in putting forward those messages that we need to deliver to the citizens. And here, Ms. Rodriguez, first of all, really nice to see you. We miss you in the Parliament. We worked very closely together in the past mandate. When you talk about pluralism, yes, you are very right. And the experience I've just given as to how we work in the current European Parliament is also testament to that. And the way we do our negotiations by recognizing the ever-changing political landscape, both on a national level, but also on an institutional level. And I think with the response of what can we do, I would say the European Parliament needs your expertise in order to guarantee that idea of pluralism in the new phase. And therefore, for example, if I look at the citizens' panels that are taking place within the context of the future of Europe, if I look at events such as the European Youth event, preparing, for example, for 2022 being the European Year of the Youth, and these are ways to connect with those people who are looking at us, who do not want on the eve of the 2024 election an admission of having simply not succeeded in delivering on very clear requests and demands that our populations gave us in 2019.
Thank you so much, Vice President Metsola. And now we have three other colleagues, and I will mention the names so that they know that they are on my list. First is Sofia Macej-Kokovic from Slovenia, then Jean-Pierre Audi from France, and then Margarita Sakevičiūtė from Lithuania. Please, Sofia. Good to see you.
Good evening to everybody, and all the best from Slovenia, especially to my colleague Roberta Metsola. Good evening. You mentioned before that European Parliament needs more visibility. And of course, also all the European institutions needs more visibility. Especially, I will focusing on ECDC. European Center of Control of Disease and Control. It's now actually a very important body during, especially during this COVID crisis. And it's so difficult because most of the citizens, they even don't know that something on the European level is set to protect the people, to be safer, to think about their health. And as we said usually that nobody is safe before everybody is safe. That's why I'm asking you, how can be ECDC more promoted among the citizens, among the people? And also, how could we, and the HERA incubator, which is also something in the political discussion now, and HERA is very important for the prediction, for the future, for the eventual future pandemic, and also for the common research and for the common action from the member state sides. Could you tell us something more? Why is HERA it's not going on? It is so crucial also for this pandemic today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sofia Kokovic. And now, Jean-Pierre Audi. Cher Jean-Pierre.
Dans ce musée de l'histoire de l'Europe, c'était ton idée, Hans-Gert, en 2007. Je me souviens quand tu étais mon président du Parlement européen. Ma question est pour toi, Roberta. C'est au sujet de la jeunesse. La jeunesse nous inquiète. Nous avons eu une remarquable conférence cet après-midi avec Maria Gabriel, qui a dans son portefeuille la jeunesse, et Federica Mogherini, qui est recteur du Collège Europe. C'était une très, très belle conférence. Or, la jeunesse me fait de la peine parce que ils vont avoir beaucoup de dettes, une situation sur le climat difficile, et la jeunesse s'abstient, ne participe pas aux élections. Comment, Roberta, toi qui es jeune, quand Malte a adhéré à l'Union européenne, dès 2004, tu as été candidate aux élections européennes et tu es devenue députée, maintenant première vice-présidente, quand tu as succédé à mon ami Simone Busuttil. Comment tu vois les choses pour entraîner la jeunesse dans la politique, qu'ils participent, qu'ils soient candidats et qu'ils prennent leur destin en main? Je me souviens, Nicolas Sarkozy disait aux jeunes, prenez-vous en main. On vous dit souvent aux jeunes, c'est trop tôt. Et après, quand ils sont candidats, on leur dit, c'est trop tard. Comment est-ce qu'on peut entraîner la jeunesse dans notre idéal européen et qu'ils puissent prendre en charge leur destin et faire de la politique comme toi tu l'as fait, Roberta? Merci.
Yes. No question from Lithuania. Can you hear me? Okay. I will be a little bit straightforward, but we have quite difficult situation, and European Union is in the same situation. European Union for some time, and it seems to me foreseeable future, will be bullied by some guys, tough guys around, and this behavior on international stage is just spreading. I read your CV and I see that your professional experience and political experience could be called as a modest. You never had a high position in your life before a vice presidency of the parliament. So I do not expect that those guys will respect you. They do not respect Europe. So how are you going to resist this pressure? The answer that you will rely on advice is not good in tough situations. The leader has to show up himself or herself And I'm talking in such a way because we have concerns about independence of my country. So its situation is difficult. Do you think that you can manage that? Thank you.
Thank you, Margarita. And now the Vice President, Roberta Metsola, please.
Thank you so much, President. I'll take the numbers, the questions in order. First of all, to Sophia, nice to see you again. We used to sit quite close to each other in the plenary when I first joined in the Parliament, and if I remember correctly. But on this, let me start with the ECDC. You know that this mandate of the centre will be reinforced so that it may support the Commission and the Member States in several areas: epidemiological surveillance, preparedness and response planning, etc., etc. There was a provisional agreement reached between the Council and the European Parliament on the 30th November. So that means just a few days ago. But I agree with you that there is need for more visibility. And that is why I mentioned the COVID certificate earlier and the Recovery and Resilience Facility, the Next Generation EU, because we need to show that the European Union took matters in its own hands when it's needed to beat an unprecedented pandemic situation. And I say unprecedented because we lived in a continent, or we are in a continent where we did not, for example, have enough masks. We needed to realize that we don't have clarity on what the competence of the Union in the area of health is. And that is in this context also of the Conference on the Future of Europe that we are discussing the possibility of creating the competence on health and being, let's say, crisis resilient. My first impression or memory of this pandemic, besides our citizens getting ill, is that Member States' initial instinct was to close our internal borders, something that we have worked for decades to ensure that they are not, except in exceptional circumstances. So I would like a Europe that is ready, also from a health perspective, that is more visible. We met with Commissioner Kyriakides a few weeks ago, where we discussed the awareness raising, especially in those member states where vaccination rates are still quite low, where there is disinformation and misinformation, and also a lot of questions of how, for example, certain authorities are managing the crisis. So these are, I think, discussions that we could continue to have, but it is being pushed, you are right, in terms of more visibility. Monsieur Rodi, merci pour vos commentaires, merci pour votre expérience sur la jeunesse, les défis. Quand j'étais jeune, j'étais à Rennes. J'étais une étudiante dans la faculté de droit à Rennes pendant les élections de 2002 en France. Et je me rappelle les discussions que nous avons été dans ce moment-là. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait sur l'Europe? Qu'est-ce qu'on fait, je me rappelle, sur la politique agricole? Et les jeunes dans cette université, ils étaient enthousiastes de faire les discussions. Ils étaient entendus par les représentants des partis politiques différents. Et je pense que pendant les années, on a oublié d'entendre les étudiants, des jeunes. On a fait la politique sur un haut niveau, mais sans faire traduire les messages et sans faire, on peut dire, encourager les jeunes d'entrer dans la politique, parce que la politique est une mission. Et si vous n'êtes pas intéressé, ou si vous ne participez pas, alors il y aura quelqu'un d'autre qui prend des décisions en votre place. Et c'est ça que je fais maintenant, parce que je suis vice-président responsable pour les parlements nationaux, et je vais pays par pays, capitale par capitale, et je rencontre aussi les jeunes femmes pour les encourager d'avoir plus de femmes dans la politique. Pas seulement dans le Parlement européen, mais aussi dans les parlements nationaux, aussi sur le niveau local. On a besoin de beaucoup, comme a dit Madame Rodriguez, de pluralisme aussi au niveau de notre village et de notre ville. Et ça, c'est important parce que pour ce projet que nous avons maintenant, et quand je vais discuter avec peut-être les étudiants, aussi les jeunes dans les capitaux, ils me demandent qu'est-ce qu'on fait pour les partis de l'Europe qu'ils sont marginalisés, qu'ils doivent avoir accès au meilleur accès à l'éducation, à des services basiques, etc. L'Union européenne doit encourager les voix qu'on entend là de parler dans une manière plus forte. Et ça, c'est mon enjeu, mon défi. Et ça, c'est le défi que je pense qu'on partage dans ce Parlement. And to continue to Margarita from Lithuania, this is precisely the point that we need to have on leadership. When we talk about leadership, that means that you face up to who would like to destroy our project. And I say this with responsibility as Vice President of the European Parliament. I did not take this position up lightly. I entered this position from a previous one where I was coordinator in the civil liberties and main spokesperson of the Parliament on migration. Sensitive issues. If you look at 2019, when our citizens were asked broadly, what are the main challenges of the European Union? Then 26 out of 28 member states at the time of migration. And I know, and we knew going there, how difficult it was to create majorities on the most sensitive issues affecting all countries. And I say all countries because now it affects your country. And when I visited Lithuania a few months ago, just after the start of the hybrid attack performed by your neighbor, and to discuss not only that attack on the humanitarian issue, but also from an energy dependency aspect. There, my first question was, has the Lithuanian government requested the assistance of Frontex, an agency that is created also with, I am rapporteur on that, I was rapporteur, but I am the standing rapporteur on Frontex in the European Parliament, in order to make sure that we have an external border agency with which we can give a strong political signal, not only as a European Parliament, but as a European Union with member states that actually show solidarity. And when we talk about solidarity, it's not only with words, but it is with tangible action. When we negotiated the Lisbon Treaty, and I was one of the so-called peers group, that means one lawyer per member state who were around the table for months on end to negotiate the Lisbon Treaty, we insisted on the word solidarity being precisely in the part of the treaty that deals with justice and home affairs. Why? Because we thought that this would actually mean something. And when we talk about migration and what is meant by frontline and how do you need to talk to your neighbors that are abusing of potential vulnerabilities or sowing divisions and misinformation among your societies, you need to be united and stand up to that. And I can tell you that this is what we are doing now. On Belarus, the European Parliament has been very consistent, very concrete. We were glad to see the increased list of sanctions from the Council last week. Of course, we will not stop until we see legitimate representation, a strong representation in that country. But make no mistake that this Parliament will not fail on the leadership needed at this difficult time.
Thank you so much, Vice President, for these comments and these answers. We have one last colleague asking for the floor, and then you give your answer, and then we have to stop this discussion. And it's my good colleague, and I remember our excellent cooperation in the European Parliament. It's Brigitte Langenhagen from my region in Lower Saxony. Brigitte, please.
Oh yes, that's right. Good evening, everybody. Today, the Parliament agreed in the form of the trialogue to the European Year of the Youth 2020, and you mentioned the 2024 election. These are only 2 years that are left, so it's a hard way to go, and we have to give all our energy into these next 2 years. So I am glad that you stressed this moment especially. But there is one danger now. My students that I'm working with, they said, you always speak now because you are looking for a solution about the challenge for the youth and the responsibility for the youth. But we cannot unload our responsibility on the shoulders of young people only, all the more as we learned this afternoon that there is such a huge knowledge deficit of everybody. So I think we have also tried and find a program and a consensus, not only regarding the youth, but also the grown-ups. And I would like to ask you, is there an idea of a special platform just to manage this problem and to get a better inside view, even for the grown-up people nowadays? Thank you.
Thank you, Brigitte. Madam Vice President, please.
Thank you very much for that question. Thank you for laying it out so clearly. I think we should thank our colleagues in the European Parliament. Sabine Verheyen was the chief negotiator of the program, and this it was something that showed that this European Parliament can take decisions quickly and allocate the budget for that. But as you say, and as your students say, this is not only about projects and programs, it is not only about budgets, it is how are we going to translate that into making sure that the platform that you mentioned actually deals with societal issues. And that is why, for example, within the conference, we're discussing the question of demography and democracy. We have a specific vice president in the European Commission called Dubravka Šuica, our colleague from Croatia, who is specifically in charge of understanding these demographic challenges, but also making sure that when I was a younger student politician, wanted to hear from you, President Pöttering, at the time, that not only was there a space for the youth and then you use it for electoral manifestos, but that the time of young people is now around the same table as what you just called grown-ups. This is not a matter of generations and we wait until your time. As Monsieur Rodi said, okay, now it's too early and now again it's too late. And what I see in this current European Parliament legislature, where you have more than half of the members who are new, where you have also senior members who we all rely on with their institutional expertise, but also with the negotiation of the toughest legislative files that you learn from in order to transfer that knowledge as time goes by in the way you work. But it also means that we need to make sure that going into elections in 2024, we need to encourage, first of all, not only younger candidates to run, but also to have established members who continue to be those, let's say, pillars of strength in an institution that relies so much on them. I think that there is a possibility to combine all. I agree with you that I'm looking for this kind of tangible coming together within the conference on the future of Europe. I will be meeting Guy Verhofstadt tomorrow, and I will actually speak to him about this in the context of the debates that we are having. And it also translates into electoral programs and political manifestos and how we want to send the message that we are ready to face the challenge, but ready to face the challenge from everybody. And and understanding that the challenges that we had a few years ago was not are not the same, but some that we had a few years ago are still the same and have not yet been addressed. So I think that we need to, as I said in my first remarks, when we talk about slogans, we need to move to tangible deliverables. 2022 will be a crucial year, and I look forward, first of all, to going through the priorities of the incoming French presidency. We are discussing them already, and then the presidents that come after, because also that discussion and the relationship with the parliament in making sure that the messaging before the elections, and not only just before, but throughout the next few years, will be clear, that will show that we are delivering on our tangible ambitions. Some of them, there will be resistance, and of course there is resistance at all levels. But for me, if I look back and now look a little bit to the future, I want to have a European Parliament that sends a direct message to 2 of my children who will vote next elections. I have 4 boys, and the other 2 are still quite young, but the older ones are already asking, and they ask me much, let's say, different questions to what I used to ask my parents or my leaders at the time, and I need to be prepared to answer them and actually pass the baton on to them, just as the baton was passed on to us by you and your colleagues.
Thank you so much, Vice President Roberta Metsola, and it was very nice and charming that you gave your arguments a personal background, speaking about your children. I thank you very much for your speech. I thank you for the way how you conducted the discussion, and I admire your firm convictions and your readiness for leadership. And this is what the European Union needs, leadership. And we have to make the European Parliament, which is already very strong, and that's a miracle of my life, that from 0 legislation competence up to now almost 100% competence in legislation, we are there where we are with the Treaty of Lisbon. So I think, and I say it because we are here in the house of the European history, the history is important, but history is always a message for the future. And that's why we, as former members of the European Parliament, adopted today 10 proposals to make the European Union, to make the European Parliament even better, and to convince our young generation, our children, our grandchildren, in my case I can already say grandchildren, in your case your children, that the European Union and the cooperation between our nations, our states, and that we as European and national citizens, and we have our home, so we have to see these different identities and defend them, our home, our nations, and our European citizenship and the responsibility for the world, that all this comes together, but it comes together on the basis of our values, the dignity of each human being, the democracy, freedom, the rule of law, and of course peace, and always the principles of solidarity and subsidiarity should unite us. So once again, thank you so much, Vice President Roberta Metsola. All the best for your responsibility in the European Parliament, for you personally and your family. Thanks again. And now I'm very pleased to give the floor to the Director of the House of European History, Constanze Itzel, for a closing speech introducing a musical performance that will close our 20th anniversary celebrations. Constanze, please take the floor.
Dear Vice President, dear questors, dear former presidents, dear President and Board of the Former Members Association, dear former members, and dear guests. It is a great honor for the House of European History to host your end of the year event once more, albeit at a distance, and even more so as you are celebrating today a very important birthday, the 20th anniversary of the Former Members Association and the 15th anniversary of the EP2 Campus educational program. We are so delighted to have this partnership with the Former Members Association, not only because of the distinguished guests that you bring into our house, but also because we share important objectives. The House of European History, as the Former Members Association, collects the memory of the European Union's history. It develops learning content about European integration history, and it speaks to university students, to teachers, and to pupils about this history. Democracy education is at the heart of our mission, and we will enhance our offers around this important topic of a democracy and its history in the run-up to the next European elections. Over the past months, we have tried to bring the museum's content online, and I would like to invite the Former Members Association cordially to join, for example, the Envisioning Europe series, which we organize in the context of the Conference on the Future of Europe, and to listen to distinguished historians and other intellectuals discussing their views about Europe and its future. And now I have the pleasure and the honor to introduce the musical piece which was recorded especially for today's event. We will listen to the first movement of a duo for violin and cello composed by the Czech composer Erwin Schulhoff in 1925. Erwin Schulhoff was born in 1894 in Prague, and he was a child prodigy who received advice from Dvorak and who grew to become a celebrated avant-garde composer, whose music embodies the ideals of various artistic movements such as Dadaism and jazz. But as was the case of many artists of his time, Erwin Schulhoff's life got strongly affected by history. Jewish, homosexual, communist, Schulhoff was arrested by the National Socialists in Prague in 1941 and deported to the camp of Würzburg in Bavaria, where he eventually died in August 1942. By choosing the piece that he will perform together with Amy Norrington, tonight's violinist Philippe Graffin wished to select for you a musical work related to the concept of truth. He dedicates this performance to Anita Lasker-Wallfisch, a cello player in the women's orchestra in front of the Auschwitz gas chambers. In her memoirs, entitled To Inherit the Truth, Anita writes, and I'm quoting, "I had many illusions when I was liberated. I thought that our suffering was an atonement for all times, and that the generations to come would be free from prejudice forever. Alas, I was wrong. There are many people today, not all of them stupid or uneducated, who maintain that the Holocaust is a serious distortion of the facts or even a complete lie." End of the quote. Anita Lasker-Wallfisch wrote her book to convey the truth to her grandchildren, and so that they would inherit the truth. That's what she's saying, and that's the title of the book. She also keeps on telling the truth to pupils in classrooms across Europe, and is hence very close to the educational mission of the Former Members Association and also of the House of European History. I now therefore hand over to the musicians, Philippe Graffin and Amy Norrington, and I think that by playing a piece composed by Erwin Schulhoff, they will remind us through their music that dreadful historical events might strip human beings of their dignity and of their lives, but that their thoughts, ideas, emotions, and deeds continue to live on. Thank you very much for your attention.